I'm joined by Ram Jethmalani. I'm joined by Aruna Roy, NAC member, and from the NCPRI as well. Aryaman Sundaram as well, top lawyer in the Supreme Court, is with us this evening. Mr. Jethmalani, thank you for coming. What do you make, Mr. Jethmalani? We saw a letter that was been written by the Prime Minister, and what the Prime Minister says. Mr. Jethmalani, I think I don't have the audio line with you. Let me first ask Aryaman Sundaram then for the legal response. What do you make of what the Prime Minister said, Mr. Sundaram?
Well, obviously it's a olive branch which has been handed out. I personally am slightly confused by the tenor of it because there is already a Lokpal bill, and so to say that another draft Lokpal bill also would be given in to the standing committee is slightly puzzling. The only way I can look at it is if the government is sending a bill to the standing committee, it's a bill which the government is suggesting. If the government then sends another bill which is inconsistent with the first bill, I'd be forced to ask myself the question, which is the bill that the government is actually suggesting? Is it suggesting the bill which was originally sent, or the bill which is now being sent to it? It's all right if you say that this is a modification to an earlier bill, but when you're giving two standalone bills, well, according to me, it looks to me to be nothing but a placebo.
Ram Jethmalani, is that also the way you look at it? The Prime Minister's letter to Anna Hazare and what is contained in it? Mr. Jethmalani, I'm afraid I don't have the audio line back with you. Really having a bad audio day. Let me hear Mr. Soli Sorabji's reaction now to what the Prime Minister wrote in the letter. Mr. Sorabji, has the Prime Minister written anything original?
Sorry, Arnab, I came a little late. What is it written?
The Prime Minister wrote a letter to Anna Hazare this evening, and in the letter he said that, Mr. Hazare, your Jan Lokpal bill will be forwarded by me to the Speaker so that it can go to the Standing Committee. Now, already the Jan Lokpal bill has been given before the Standing Committee by a Congress Member of Parliament on the 15th. So I don't know if there's anything new that the Prime Minister seems to have written to Anna Hazare, besides the fact that he wrote a letter to him. There's nothing in the content, it appears to me, but what do you think?
Yeah, I suppose it's possibly an indication that they want to consider as Jan Lokpal bill, and not that they are sticking to their point of view. Say, look, Arnab, the main thing today, if you ask me, is to save the life of this great soul who has galvanized the Indian public opinion on an issue which has been bothering our nation for a long time. Now, in that process, I would like to say he has done great service, yeoman service to the nation, but we must see that the momentum is kept up. At the same time, we must be careful about his life. And I'm very glad, unless I'm mistaken, I read on your ticker that Santosh Hegde has asked him to call off the fast. Now, I suppose the Prime Minister's letter can be construed to be a sort of a overture or a concession to it. I think the whole thing has to be done with a spirit of give and take. No one can say the objections raised by some people to the intrusion of PM are rubbish. At the same time, no one can say that insistence on PM is also not proper. We have to now, we have come at a stage where I think there should be a round table of political parties, eminent persons, public figures who should really discuss the thing in depth. It's an important piece of legislation. I can't understand these time limits, do it in 3 days and 4 days, and then otherwise some consequences are contemplated. That is what I don't appreciate. Frankly, I think Anna Hazare really deserves a Bharat Ratna, because he has done something which no one else did.
Yeah, but
he has really galvanized the nation.
Yeah.
But the question is about the method. Now, let's not quibble about that. Let's go to the substance of it.
Let's go to the substance. But then if we go to the substance, my question is, Ms. Aruna Roy, just coming to you, I'm just getting the legal points of view right there at the top first. Mr. Jethmalani, if we go to the substance, has the Prime Minister set the stage for a negotiation? Because the Prime Minister says the formal non-introduction of the Jan Lokpal bill version by the government is irrelevant and would largely boil down to a semantic debate. the core demand of Team Anna has been described by the Prime Minister as irrelevant and something that boils down to the semantic debate. Does this help Pranab Mukherjee as he begins the negotiations? Mr. Jethmalani,
Yes.
if the Prime Minister says your core demand is irrelevant and whether or not it's basically a semantic debate, does this help negotiations?
Listen,
The spirit of the letter.
I don't even understand the statements which the Prime Minister is making these days. I don't know whether he understands them himself or somebody else has drafted these statements for him. I really can't understand what is it. You have to solve the major issue. The major dispute between the two groups is, should the Prime Minister and the higher judiciary be subject to the jurisdiction of the Lokpal? This is the major issue. Then there are other minor issues, in which one of the issues is that you have created a Lokpal bill in which the person who is a whistleblower and who is trying to remove corruption or provide evidence of corruption is the person who is to be treated almost as an accused. Now these are the two major issues, and any sensible Prime Minister should know where the correct solution lies. But the trouble is that he is too much of a Prime Minister who has lost his ability to govern. And it is time that somebody took over, or that he should assert himself.
Aruna Roy, let me come to you now, ma'am.
Yes.
Ms. Aruna Roy, what is really the problem that you have with Team Anna? Let me bring it down to brass tacks, you know. What is really the problem that you have with Team Anna? And people have questioned the timing of your news conference on Saturday, as Team Anna was sitting on fast. You have a news conference. You know, if you don't mind my saying so, people are saying there's a lack of convergence and a consensus between you and members of Team Anna, that you feel that Arvind Kejriwal stole your agenda and walked away with the credit. That really is the reason for differences between your group and Arvind Kejriwal and the others.
I think that's an absurd suggestion, because we had differences with Prashant and the rest of the team dating March, April this year, before the Jan Lokpal went into the public domain, and our differences have remained. The differences have been, one, that we want corruption and grievances to be separated, and we also want, instead of one institution they have suggested, we want 5 institutions. We also wrote to the joint committee, to which both Mr. Pranab Mukherjee and Mr. Shanti Bhushan replied to us, saying we wanted to present this case actually in an article in the Outlook magazine in the first 10 days of April. Nikhil Dey and I wrote a fairly detailed article about what our differences were with the Jan Lokpal bill. So it's nothing new. So this, when we presented to the joint committee and asked for space to testify, both the chair and the co-chair wrote to us, which is on record, saying that they would provide us the space. But before they could provide the space to us, the joint committee got disbanded. Thereafter, we had further deliberations. We have met Prashant Bhushan many times. We have had discussions with this side of the team, and we tried to meet the government. We couldn't meet the government,
No.
and finally we placed the entire document in the public domain on the 6th of July. On the 6th of July, we had a fairly detailed discussion in the Nehru Memorial Library,
Yes.
which was also been videographed, and it's there in the public domain. So what we have done today, a few days ago, is today when the bill is in Parliament and it is in front of the standing committee, the entire presentation of that in the press conference was for people to make some more informed choices, because now the issue, so far as we were concerned, was in front of the standing committee in Parliament, and though there has been another Jan Lokpal bill,
I have a follow-up.
That is all there was to it.
No, I have a follow-up. I think just getting a health update, Naresh Trayan is giving us a health update. Let's hear what he's saying. I'm coming back to this debate.
तो इसीलिए हमने ये इंसिस्ट किया। वो कहते हैं मुझे यहीं पे ड्रिप लगा दो, पर मैं यहां से नहीं जाऊंगा। तो हमने उनको बोला है कि ये कई बार बहुत ज़रूरी हो सकता है हॉस्पिटल जाना, तो आज के दिन उनको ड्रिप लगा रहे हैं और उससे उनको स्टेबलाइज करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। फिर सुबह फिर एग्जामिन करेंगे, फिर ब्लड टेस्ट करेंगे, फिर आगे की आपको बुलेटिन देंगे। धन्यवाद।
Okay, so basically Anna Hazare is being put on a drip. That's what Naresh Trehan said. And Ram Jethmalani is back there with us. Aruna Roy, you know, you're giving your point of view, but with all respect, let me take a contrary perspective here to what Aruna Roy is saying from Ram Jethmalani. Did you hear Ms. Aruna Roy's perspective? Because there are some who believe, Mr. Jethmalani, that the government is trying to divide civil society and groups in civil society to achieve a political objective.
Arnav,
Sound has gone off.
today Aina ji has become the symbol of people's aspirations. He is not one person, he is today almost 3/4 of the nation. Look at what he has achieved today. The New York Times, the International Herald Tribune, all the important newspapers of the world are today talking about Anna. And today I am sitting here and my worry is not to enter into this debate, my worry is to save his life. Because we are all prepared to die, but we don't want Anna to die before us.
Okay.
And it will be a big shame for this Prime Minister of this country and his cabinet. If Anna dies, there is going to be literal chaos in this country, which they will not be able to control. And I don't see why they don't see the sense of it. Lokpal bill is not an end in itself. The Lokpal bill is only a step in the direction of controlling corruption. The corruption is what the Prime Minister himself said is the cancer which is inflicting this body corporate today. And the Prime Minister admits that corruption is the cancer.
Yes.
He is doing nothing to cure this cancer. He is only trying to conceal those people who are responsible for the cancer.
Okay.
And I am sorry to say that the Prime Minister will have to suffer for this. The nation today is angry, and if the Prime Minister doesn't have the sense to see that the nation is terribly angry with him, I am sorry for him, I pity him.
Well,
You have to save Anna's life, and you cannot take the responsibility of his death. If he dies, believe me, there will be 1 million people who will do what Anna is doing today.
Okay, now Aryaman wanted to come in while you were speaking. I want to have a question for Aruna Roy once again. But yes, Mr. Sundaram.
Arnab, you know, this is exactly what concerns me. Mr. Jethmalani has used very extreme expressions. He says there will be chaos in the country. He says we cannot bring about a death. He's right in what he says about the fact that all of us respect Anna Hazare tremendously, and the last thing we want is for anything to happen to him. But the fact is, India is a democratic country, and what has just been proved to us is by what Ms. Aruna Roy just said. She said that she has a different view.
No, but what is the basis of the view?
Just allow me to finish. Arnab, let me finish, please. We are really discussing the nature of a bill which is to be introduced. If we cut everything down, of course we're against corruption. Everybody is against corruption. I cannot imagine one person who will stand up and say, I'm for corruption. Every one of us is against corruption. But the issue today is the nature of a Lokpal bill. What should be the clauses in the bill? What should be the sections in the bill? Who should be covered by the bill?
No, the issue, Mr. Aryaman Sundaram.
Now,
Mr.
there are
Sundaram.
Two people who have two
Mr. Sundaram.
opinions
Mr.
on
Sundaram.
what should be the subject matter of the bill.
Mr. Sundaram, the issue is very simple here. We can complicate it. The issue is the government. Aruna Roy, this is the real issue. because you're coming and speaking out against Anna Hazare can be seen by some people as, you know, bolstering the government.
I don't see her as speaking
1 minute.
against
The
Anna
issue is
Hazare.
this,
Arnab,
Mr. Sundaram.
I do not see her as speaking against Anna Hazare.
Okay, if you don't,
I see her as having a point of view on certain clauses of the bill.
Perfect.
which may
But
be
here's
different.
the issue. Here's the issue. And the fundamental issue is this. This bill was built by the government, Ms. Aruna Roy, so that on matters of several issues, jurisdiction, selection, etc., the government has complete control. The basic issue is that you want to have an institution which is answerable to the people who it is supposed to investigate. Isn't that the biggest anomaly, Ms. Aruna Roy? I haven't heard you speak in great detail about the fact that the government...
I can't hear,
Ms. Roy...
There's too much shouting and I can't hear your question clearly.
Now here's the question.
Please frame the question again.
Isn't the only issue this, that the government wants to create an institution over which it has control and which in turn is supposed to investigate it? Isn't that the greatest irony in all of this?
Let me tell you, Mr. Goswami, that I have in all my life not listened to anyone else's opinions and made them my own. Neither my husband, nor my father, nor my mother has ever had control over my opinions. In fact, I've had differences of opinion with them all. I act only on my conscience and what I believe, and I, with a group of other friends, with whom actually in the NCPRI working committee, Mr. Prashant Bhushan and Mr. Arvind Kejriwal are still members. All our documents go to them. Whenever we frame any policy, we send it to the entire NCPRI working group. It also goes to them. They are still there on our working committee. So there is no question. There's a very famous saying, ki matbhed hone par bhi manbhed ho na paye. But there is matbhed. And if you say that you have to have the same opinion as everybody else,
you don't.
then I think it's not only
I want to
undemocratic, but it's not possible.
I want to question you on specifics.
So I'm just saying that these are, no, please listen to me. Please listen to me, Mr. Goswami. These are my opinions. And ever since I was 21, I've had my own opinions. Now we have debated these opinions. We have talked about these opinions with the team.
Very good.